Hello. Hello, everybody. It's great to have another webinar for Wine Communicators of Australia. I'm Ruth Harris. I'm the new Executive Officer for Wine Communicators. We'll just wait for a little while we sort of see a few more people join. It's been a really great registration today for today's webinar. I think lots of people are interested in AI, so that's good. While we're waiting for everyone to join, I will just introduce myself a little bit because I am new to the role. Some of you, I've seen the attendance list today, and some of you I know from my past roles through the industry. I've been working in the wine industry for the last 25 years in communications. Quite a few of those at Pernod Ricard. For those of you who are old enough, you'd remember Two Dogs Alcoholic Lemonade. And more recently, I've been contracting to one of the wine regions, to ASVO and a McLaren Vale winery. So have been around for a little while and delightfully enjoyed all my career in the wine industry, pretty much. I did come from a background of economics, but it was a little bit boring, so changed tack and went into the industry. So I think we've probably got most of the people have joined now who are going to join. Most of you are members of Wine Communicators Australia. There's a few guests who've joined who are obviously interested in the topic and found out about the topic. We've got one of our business members, Hydra Consulting. We've got a whole bunch of winery members, which is great to see. And we welcome 3 regions from around Australia, Margaret River, McLaren Vale and Mornington Peninsula, who have dialed in. So it's just really great to have all of these people on. I just want to acknowledge that we are hosting this webinar from Ghana land. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we work today, and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who may be participating in this webinar. We pay respects to elders past and present and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal people and their cultures and connections to the land of Australia. Very much important to the wine industry, which is born from the land. So today, our webinar is actually all about AI, artificial intelligence in the wine industry. And very soon I'll be introducing you to our presenter, Eloise Leaver, who's from the National AI Centre. I'll just tell you a little bit about Eloise so that you've got a bit of background. So Eloise leads the AI industry growth team at the National AI Centre, which is part of the federal government's Department of Industry, Science and Resources. So her role is actually working with industries, with industry-facing program to try to get businesses, I guess, upskilled and adopting AI technology and innovating using AI. So her experience and background is really linked. Hopefully you can all see a poll. I'll finish introducing Eloise in a minute, but this would be great if we can do this right now. If everyone can just quickly click on this poll and just let us know where you are in your AI journey. Do you avoid AI like the plague? Are you curious but haven't used it yet? Have you dabbled? Do you use it quite frequently, but just for small things like writing emails or, tidying up things, taking minutes or whatever? Or do you use it extensively for major projects? So if you can vote now while I'm finishing the introduction to Eloise, that would be great. So you've only got like a minute to vote, so quickly do it. So Eloise's background is actually really focused in entrepreneurship. So she did work previously with the University of Adelaide in the entrepreneurship sector, focusing on helping startups and businesses looking to enter international markets. So she's got very relevant experience. She understands small business, and she'll be talking today about AI with a particular slant on what small businesses can do to get involved. So we will have the way that it'll work is that Eloise will present her whole presentation, and then at the end we will have questions. What we'd love you to do is to submit your questions via the Q&A button at the bottom. So not via the chat. The chat is really for if you've got technology issues or something that you're trying to let Alex know, but really use the Q&A button button. It's the one with the little question mark to type your questions. And then the benefit of that is that they're actually captured with the recording so that we can come back and answer any of those questions which are not able to be addressed live, because we've got a record of them. So we are also recording this webinar today, so you'll get a link to the recording afterwards should you wish to watch it again or share it with somebody, maybe somebody internal. So now the poll is finished. You will have finished your voting. Let's just see if we've got any results. We haven't got any of the results yet. They're probably still coming in. I'll wait and see if they do get posted a little bit later, and then I'll share them with Eloise. So if I interrupt, we have got a bit of an answer. 40% of your participants today have had small use, have just used it a little bit. 23% have dabbled. So that's 23% of you use it a lot already, which is, it's great to see that there's actually a lot of people who are already using it. And the rest are just curious, and that's probably why they're here in this webinar, to find out more. So it's now my pleasure to hand you over to Eloise Leaver from the National AI Centre. Eloise.
Hello, and thank you so much, Ruth, for the introduction, and congratulations to you as well on your role. I hope you're settling in well. Just bear with me for 1 minute while I share my presentation properly. Okay. Apologies, we need to go back. Right. Thank you again, and really interesting poll. Like I suspected, at these type of things, we do get a really, wide variety of people that are just getting started in AI, the dabblers, like you said, good to see a lot of those, and some that are just curious. So really, really useful information for me. Thank you for inviting me, Alex, who's in the background today, to speak at this webinar. Look, I'm surrounded by AI day in, day out in my role, but not normally specifically to the wine industry. But look, I live in Adelaide, and I love the wine industry, and it's such a huge part of South Australia as well. So I was really excited to be able to come and talk to you today. Right, so I've tried to tailor my talk today to sort of cover if you're both if you're just an individual and how you might use AI in your day-to-day work, but also if you're actually leading and running a business as well, and how you can get started, and also more broadly applications across the wine industry. Thank you, Ruth, for doing the acknowledgement of country today. Also just pointing out that I too am on Kaurna land and acknowledge the first people of this nation as well. Okay, I'm going to start just by giving a little bit of background of the National AI Centre where I work, so you can sort of understand where I'm coming from today. So look, we have like our missions up there, accelerating positive AI adoption that benefits Australia's business and community. And we do this in a number of different ways, and we have sort of two main focuses. So adoption. So we want to ensure that Australians are adopting AI responsibly and positively. And so we really look at uplifting small to medium enterprises, SMEs, I'll refer to those throughout our presentation, making sure that they're getting on board so we can reap the benefits of AI. But then the area that my team actually looks after is the creation. And what I mean by that is how we build an AI industry in Australia. So we have some of our own capabilities. So these are supporting those businesses that are actually developing AI innovations and products and services, so that us as Australians don't necessarily always have to rely on global products, that we have some of our own sovereign capability in Australia. So we do, that's our mission and our focus, and we do this in a number of different ways. On the responsible AI and adoption side, we run a series of webinars actually, which go deep into responsible AI adoption. So at the end of my slide, you'll see where you can go and sign up to those. They're all free. We usually offer them monthly. We also produce best practice guidance for businesses in how to implement responsible AI into their business. And on the creation side, we've actually, last year, one of my major programs was we delivered what's called the Australia's AI Sprint in partnership with Google and with Stone & Chalk, which is a startup hub in Australia, to 250 AI startups across Australia. And we also run a program where we connect Australian businesses that are looking to adopt AI directly with those Australian companies that are building AI solutions. So we do those in partnership with the Australian Industry Group. So that's a little bit about what we do at the National AI Centre. Right, now I'm just going to start a little bit about why now, why is AI important? So first of all, we're at a really unique moment in time where three powerful forces have converged together, data being the first one. We are generating more data and storing more data than ever before that can be used to train AI models. So the data is coming to us from, might be sensors, smartphones, e-commerce, social media, and I guess for the wine industry, it could include vineyard data, weather patterns, point of sale systems capturing customer preferences and global market trends. But at the same time that we have all of this data and store all of this data, we're now at the point where our computers are powerful, more powerful than ever before. We've got cloud computing, we've got this technology called GPUs, which I'm sure some of you have heard of, which actually power AI systems. And these compute power has actually made it feasible and affordable to process the data, whereas previously we didn't have that. Noting, of course, that sometimes it's not affordable and it is not energy efficient to process this data, but still we're at a point in time where it's possible. And then we also have this code. So we've never had before this open source reusable code, which has really lowered the barrier to entry for developers to actually build these applications without starting from scratch. So all of this is the perfect storm for innovation across industries. And it's really changing how we do business and how we work at quite a rapid pace. For the wine industry, this might be, from optimizing vineyard operations to creating really personalized tasting experiences to automating customer service. So that was the sort of why now, and this is, why is this important? Why does this matter? And why do we want to do this as Australians and as businesses and as industries? First of all, I mean, these are just a few, but these are some of the high level kind of main reasons we as a country want to think about adopting AI and harnessing those opportunities. Many of us now working in global markets, the Australian wine industry particularly has a huge global focus. And basically, other countries are doing this. Our competitors are doing this, they're investing in it, and they're doing it at scale and quickly. So we need to be on this journey in order to remain competitive in a global market. And the second one is related to that as well, attraction of international investment. If AI can reduce costs, increase productivity, and increase innovation in a business, it means it will be more likely to attract international investment. That one, ability to grow, attract and retain talent is really important. If we want to have thriving industries in Australia that are cutting edge, profitable, we need the best people working in them. And we need interesting jobs for them to do. And so we actually need to keep our top talent in Australia. And by having, these so we're not just users of systems, so we're actually have some of the creators and innovators in Australia as well will actually create these high-paying jobs and keep our talent here in our industries. and that moving into development of new sectors and jobs, not only those additional jobs for developers and working with AI, but also just a profitable sector, a productive sector, retains jobs. And the last one is less about business, but really important, and something that really drives me in my role is how we actually improve the lives of Australians. And for example, how can AI improve our health outcomes? Could it give us faster diagnosis? Can it provide personalised services to Australians that are otherwise harder to reach? So this is the why. This is why I come to work every day. This is what drives me, is why Australia should jump on board. Before I get into a few more use cases about the wine industry, I actually wanted to do a bit of scene setting around how Australians are actually using AI at the moment. One of the great things about my job, you may not agree with this, but I get a lot of industry reports across my desk, which I find super interesting about AI. And there was a bit of a buzz in our team, I think it was 2 weeks ago. This is a very recent report that came out from KPMG and the University of Melbourne. And it's called Trust, Attitudes and Use of AI. And actually surveyed, I think it was 47 countries and around all of these questions. And I'm focusing on what the Australian response is here. But 67% actually said that they use AI for work. And they're mainly using general AI purpose tools like ChatGPT, etc., which most of you would know about. But 63% have limited knowledge of AI and 76% no AI training. Now that compares with 61% globally. So we're not faring too well in that case. So we've got a lot of people using AI, but people say they don't understand it. They haven't had any training. And then, which this figure scares me a little bit, 46% don't even verify the accuracy of output. So I think, we've got a bit of a way to go here. We actually, the key takeaway I said there, AI is here and AI at work is here. People are using it already, but we need higher literacy levels and understanding. And I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit further. And that's to really ensure that not only are we using it to make the most of the opportunity, but we're actually using it safe and responsibly as well in the workplace, making sure that we understand what we're doing, we are using data that we know we're allowed to use and those types of things. And just switching from individuals to SMEs for a moment, you'll notice this is a bit lower. So adoption is increasing in Australia's small to medium enterprises, but it is still low. 41% are adopting, that's not too bad. But we have to remember that I think it's 95% of Australian businesses are actually small to medium enterprises. So they have a huge impact on our economy and on our productivity and on our workforce. So we really want to ensure that our SME sector are adopting to remain competitive, really. So just wanted to flag the difference there in the numbers from individuals to SMEs. And just very quickly, those SMEs that are adopting, these are the 5 areas that they say that they are using AI. So they're using generative AI assistance, it's helping them with data entry, fraud detection, marketing automation, and customer support and chatbots. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of these use cases in a moment. Okay. AI cuts across multiple facets of an industry and it impacts all stages of the supply chain. And I guess in the wine industry, that might be from forecasting to the growers, production, logistics, customer delivery. So I'm just going to run through a few of these and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. Basically, precision viticulture. This this is where, it starts right from the growers in the industry. And I understand that many of you today might not be the growers. Some of you may be, some of you work with the growers, some of you are dealing with the end product. But AI is transforming this part of the wine industry already. We've got there disease and pest detection. AI can detect diseases and pests. This could be through computer vision technologies or other. In fact, I know of a startup in Adelaide, some of you may have heard of them, called Chirp. They actually use AI to identify bird species using machine vision to recognise and look at target deterrence on crops. So this is already happening. Smart irrigation, they use data from soil sensors, weather forecasts, satellite imagery, and then they use AI algorithms to analyse this data and to make precise irrigation decisions. Already, I'm sure, as you would know, there are a lot of vineyards in Australia that are already using this technology, and it's a great example of how AI, can be used to actually help us with our drought conditions and to support our growers. There's a company as well that I've come across, an AI company. Their name is Bitwise Agronomy. Fiona Turner, some of you may know her. She's a Tasmanian. She actually spoke at our Women in AI webinar the other week, and she's got a product called Greenview Agritech, and she actually supports vineyard managers and by giving them reliable, accurate, and consistent data so that they can understand their crop variability. So it uses AI technology to count, and interestingly enough, not related to wine, but Fiona Turner's company has the largest blueberry model in the world, as in AI model, a database of blueberries. So that's one to watch, and they're already got a number of vineyard customers and are working to use AI to support the vineyard. Look, operational efficiencies, AI and robotics together is advancing quickly. You might have heard of Swarm Farm. They use it for precision spraying, but robotics can be used, as we know, to automate labour-intensive tasks. So that's going to be a space where I think innovation is going to happen even faster now with AI and robotics. As it's sort of moving AI out of these large language models like ChatGPT and into robotics. The other company I've seen do some work with wine producers around operational efficiency is called Tillet. It's actually out of South Australia as well. They support wineries with their production scheduling, and it really modernises the processing, the production processing. It tracks and manages the production process, and it optimises the utilisation of assets, and also does predictive maintenance as well. Brand positioning is a huge one. I mean, previously you would have had to hire graphic designers, spend a lot of time designing your label and packaging. Now you can prototype and test your label and packaging with target markets really, really quickly. There are lots of models that you can use to do that, and I'll actually go into some of those in a moment. And customer experience, AI can help you understand your target market. It can analyse the purchase histories of your customers and of social media and predict what they're likely to buy next. It can do personalised email campaigns, tailored offers, and can do sentiment analysis. And some of this can be done through even things like HubSpot, Salesforce, Facebook, etc. at the moment. So there are many ways that AI can transform the industry, and a lot of it's already happening, and a lot of you would be working in businesses that are already using many of these tools. Okay, just going to go to the next slide. I want to give you a little bit more of an example. So when we consider digital transformation, we really look at these 4 quadrants, and AI is a digital transformation. We look at customer engagement, employee empowerment, missing a T there. Oh no, it's on the next line. Optimizing operations and product service innovation. So employee empowerment. A lot of you said, that you're just dabbling in AI. A lot of you are probably working for, wine businesses and are getting started with AI. So really, this employee empowerment is about using AI to help you with your decision making. It's about enhancing your creativity and, helping you, making you more productive at work. So you, or as an employee, you could look at using a number of different models to support you with your work. Most people have played with ChatGPT, a lot of the dabblers, I'm sure, and some of you would have gone beyond that. Some of you would have Microsoft Copilot. Some of you may have played with Google Gemini, as well as Meta's Llama, and there's also Claude. These are all large language models, but they all have different sort of nuances. So ChatGPT and Copilot, are that conversational sort of large language model. Claude is actually focused a little bit more around safety of AI. Llama is research and open source. And another one actually, which I've got up there, is Perplexity. So that's really good for niche topics and a good research tool. It actually finds you really updated press releases from other sources. So my advice would be, I'd encourage you to branch out from ChatGPT and have a play with some of the other models and see what comes out, compare, and learn from that. You might find that's a really fun thing to do and build your skills. I've also flagged there the combination of Copilot and Power BI. Combining these two means that you can actually, for those that don't use Power BI, it's a sort of a reporting tool. But if you combine Copilot and Power BI, which is possible to do, you can actually use language prompts to create and refine your reports. So you might say, create me a sales dashboard showing monthly trends. And then you can drill down into the results as well. Another one there is Otter AI. Some of you may have heard of that. You can use that for transcription for meetings. It plugs into Zoom, plugs into Google Meet, etc. So it can make you a bit faster in your note taking, etc. Canva and Leonardo, I want to highlight those. Canva, many of you would use if you're doing marketing. It's an Australian company, a very, very successful Australian company. It was first considered a graphic design type company. It is now an AI company. It is AI first. It actually acquired Leonardo AI, which I've got up there in the corner. Leonardo is an Australian startup, and they built their own foundational model, not a language model, but an image model in Australia, and it was acquired by Canva. I think it was last year or the year before. And what Leonardo does is it actually generates images from prompts, much like ChatGPT, but it actually offers a more significant degree of control. So it's really appealing to artists and designers who want that sort of precision in their work. And it faithfully follows your prompt, even for long, detailed instructions. And it also gives highly detailed images as well, with specific sort of textures and shapes. So for two reasons, I would encourage you to have a go at Leonardo AI. One is because it's Australian, which I think is amazing. It's doing really well. Like I said, it was acquired by Canva. And two is that it just gives that extra level of image generation. And just to wrap up the employee empowerment part, advice I can give if you're going to use these at work is be open about it. Be open with your managers, tell them how you're going to use AI, check the output, and don't assume it's correct. We've probably all heard of how models can hallucinate, and they can. Like I've played with various models before, and I've thought, oh, that doesn't sound right. And I've added another question in to say, this doesn't sound right, and has said, yes, I made it up. So it does happen. So you do need to verify your output. When you are producing something, whether it's an email or a document or something out of these large language models, you are still responsible for the output. It is not AI's fault. It is human fault. So you have to be confident in what's coming out of it. Use it as a co-pilot. Use it as a tool to help you, but always check it. And if you're a leader or a business owner on the call, then upskill your employees. Let them use AI. Encourage the digital literacy and the continuous learning. And encourage that open conversation about how AI can support your staff to become more productive. Customer engagement is a big one, and is really transforming. AI is really transforming how businesses can engage with their customers. Chatbots can automate customer support. They can resolve customer queries with higher accuracy. They reduce response times, and they can provide a more personalised experience. So I've given I've got a couple of examples up there. WineSpot is actually not an Australian company, it's a US company, but they're actually they have chatbots that are trained for the wine industry. So it'd be worth having a look at their website if you're not already using them. They do personalised recommendations, they cross-sell, etc., and instant 24/7 support using AI. In terms of Australia, Clevertar is one that I came across recently at South Start in South Australia. They have, excuse me, conversational chatbots for any businesses with a Shopify account. So they can create them tailored. They have a number of customers. And Curious Thing are a Sydney-based company, and they actually have voice assistants. And another one that you can check out is called Tooth Fairy AI. I haven't put their logo up there, but they build autonomous agents that can plan and reason and perform tasks. They're a bit more detailed than just a chatbot, but worth checking them out as well. Optimizing operations. I talked about this briefly before, and I mentioned Tillit, I mentioned Bitwise. But also just to highlight Relevance AI in there. They're a startup actually, and they just raised a couple of weeks ago $24 million. They are building, they're a platform that builds agents for customer support, for sales, for marketing, and for back office. So they really help companies actually create and deploy AI agents into their business. So they're one to have a bit of a look at. Another example of optimising operations, have a look at the case study of Treasury Wines, which is a huge company in Australia, and their partnership with GPT Strategic. That's a good example of how they've used AI to optimise operations as well. And as is Complexica, which is another, has worked with a number of large wine brands in Australia. But on the smaller scale, eBottly, which you may have heard of, run by a French lady, they use AI for real-time workflow management for wine production as well. So there's a lot of both international and Australian companies actually supporting AI innovation in operations in the wine industry. Product service innovation, that sort of crosses over a little bit what I said about prototyping, coming up with to help with your brand, but a little bit more specifically, it could be around prototyping to come up with your ideas for new wines or new experiences, etc. And I've put a couple of examples there. I think you've probably all been in the wine industry. You've probably all heard of this Citizen. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly. But they're an Australian startup that have created AI wine. I've never tasted it. I don't know if any of you have, but I would be keen to try it, or I'd be keen to hear what it's like. But they've created this wine from, looking at analysing data and looking at market trends and consumer preferences and coming up with this wine. And there's another one called Tastry, which is a US-based company, and they have an app that utilises chemical analysis of wines, like data and consumer taste data, to predict which are going to be the most popular amongst different demographics. So they're an interesting one to check out as well. Look, in summary, there are a lot of solutions on the market, and I've tried to highlight some of the Australian ones and also some of the off-the-shelf US ones. And you might think, well, that's all great, but how do we get started? And, a lot of the big firms in Australia are already well on their way. And I mean, like the Woolworths, the Australia Post, Commonwealth Bank, Telstra, Treasury Wine Estates as a wine example. These larger companies are using these types of technologies already. They're well on the way of the journey, and they're looking at how they increase that, and how they build responsible AI into their into their businesses as well. But for the smaller end of town, how does a small business get started, or how as an individual do you upskill and get started? Sorry, just had an issue with my slide. There we go. Well, first of all, there is a free course that you can do. This was sponsored by us at National AI Centre in partnership with the New South Wales TAFE and Microsoft. And the QR code is there. Hopefully you can see that. It takes about 5 hours to do this course. I mean, you can do it over multiple days, but it gives you a good background into what is AI, etc. And you get a little certificate at the end. We made it free for I think 1 million Australians or something. So it's a great way to get started. Another thing you can do, these videos here are actually created by the National AI Centre, but when we were in CSIRO, so when we started, we were in CSIRO, and we transferred over to the Department of Industry in the middle of last year. So they're still branded CSIRO, but that's fine. You can use that QR code to access the playlist, and it's a great set of videos created by Data 61 at CSIRO in consultation with us. And it goes through about, what is AI, but also talks about human-centered AI, managing the risks of AI. And it's a really, as you can see, all the videos are 4 or 5 minutes long. So, you could dedicate 45 minutes and watch all of those videos, and you'd learn quite a bit, actually. And they're a really, really great way to get a bit of an understanding about the risks and how we might manage those. And if you're a small business as well, I wanted to go through a few steps as well, because you can start using AI, you can learn about AI, but how can you start to bring it into your business? So I guess these are a few steps that you want to think about. Understanding first of all what they can do for your business. I mean, I covered those sort of 4 quadrants. Do you want to think about bringing AI in for your staff? Do you want to bring it in for your customer experience? Are you looking to optimize your operations? So don't do it all at once. Pick one first, and identify what the problem is you're trying to solve. Maybe you're not getting to answer all your customer inquiries. Maybe you need more customers. Maybe your staff need to be able to do marketing materials faster. Maybe that there are a number of different use cases, but you need to kind of pick one and start from the beginning, and don't try and do everything at once. And like I said here, prioritize use cases with value. What's going to provide value to you as a business owner? What are the benefits to you if you can solve this problem? I've talked about here, leverage the AI Adopt Centres, and I'm just going to go to the next slide this slide's a little bit messy, but I just wanted to explain to you what the AI Adopt Centres are, because they provide free support to Australian SMEs that want to bring AI into their business. So they may be quite relevant for some of you. One there called A-RAIN is actually focused on regional businesses, so all over Australia. They're actually based in Victoria, but their remit is all over Australia. They're funded by the federal government to help SMEs in regional Australia on the AI journey. So, check them out. They've got a good offering. The ARM Adopt Centre, they are actually, it does say robotics and manufacturing, but they offer small businesses a data as a service offerings. So they actually come in, they can come into your business and they can work with you on a roadmap to how you might get your data ready to implement AI into your business. They're based in Melbourne and Queensland, but they support small to medium businesses all over Australia. Sam is looking at how to safe and responsible AI in small businesses, so if that's an interest to you. And SMEC is actually looking at mainly health, but it also has a focus on agriculture, so it may be relevant as well. And it also does support those startups in AI too. So I would encourage you, if you are leading a small business and you want to sort of some help with how to get started, these adopt centres are actually the ones that work one-on-one with the businesses. So I would encourage you to go and Google AI Adopt Centres Australia and check them out. Now, I've put safe and responsible AI. I've put the 8 ethics principles up here for you to have a bit of a read through. There's a lot there, but safe and responsible AI is a huge part of the National AI Centre's role, and we do a lot of work in this space. Basically, we look at this human-centred values and design. So when I talk about human-centred values and AI, what I mean is that people are at the core. So systems, we want to have systems in our businesses, and we want systems that are built that respond to human capabilities and needs. We want them to be transparent, ethical. We want them to be collaborative and have diverse perspectives built into them. And we want them to be designed iteratively, where solutions are tested and refined from human feedback, not just launched. You want to get feedback, and you want to get people and humans to test these systems because they can fail. So just familiarise yourself with the ethics principles. That is, they sort of underpin everything that we do with AI. But we also have a little bit more guidance for business as well. And this is it goes into a little bit more detail, but this is the voluntary AI safety standard. And this was developed by our team at National AI Centre in consultation with some external partners. And it actually is, it was published last year on our website, and it's actually voluntary guardrails for AI. And this is focused on businesses that are deploying AI systems into their business. So this is not for people that are building AI systems, it's for businesses bringing them in to your business. So this is a best practice guidance. It's not, there's no laws around, apart from, the usual privacy laws and the laws that are already in place. There's no specific AI regulation at this stage. So this is voluntary, but it does give you best practice guidance. So it is quite a long document, I will say, and we're actually working on some guidance that breaks it down into more manageable and practical steps. So that's coming, so because it is quite meaty. And some other resources we have as well that may be of interest. We released these last year, the AI Impact Navigator. That's a guide for leaders in businesses and companies of how to bring AI into their businesses socially, environmentally, economically, in sound ways, and AI and ESG as well. So they may be of interest to some of you. Also, we have a responsible AI network. I alluded to some webinars earlier in the talk and that we run, and that's part of our responsible AI network. Those logos are our members in the corner, but you can actually join up not as a content member, but just as you can sign up to our newsletter and you get invites to all of these webinars. And this is where we have the guests from, Standards Australia, Human Technology Institute, CSIRO, the Tech Council, etc., come and actually talk about how, talk in more detail. It's much more detailed about how to, think about AI ethically and responsibly if you're interested in that area. And finally, this is where you can get some more information. there's our LinkedIn page. We put everything, well, we haven't been putting anything up for the last 2 months because we've been in the election period, but we will be back online shortly. And so we put all of our events, webinars, business guidance, etc., up on our LinkedIn page. So follow us on there. You can sign up to our Responsible AI Network as well. And please also feel free to connect with myself on LinkedIn as well and ask any questions. But look, that's the end of my slides. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Oh, I'm just bringing my video back up. Thank you very much, Eloise, for explaining all of that. To be honest, I didn't actually really ever contemplate what the government might do for us for AI. I only ever thought about using Google as a source of information on AI. And now we've got all these resources we can look at. So there is some questions here that people have asked. I mean, the first one is that people have asked whether or not the slide deck will be available after the session. Yes, the slide deck will be available to members and participants. But we've got a question here. Do you have any comments about the environmental impacts of AI? As a sustainable winemaking business and on a personal level, someone who cares about the environment, I struggle with this issue.
Yeah, okay.
What's your insights?
I think we all do, really, because we know that powering these AI systems takes an extraordinary amount of energy. And, you know, we need renewable energy to be able to continually power them. And I guess, yeah, we have to balance innovation and progress with, you know, sustainability. So that is, you know, it's not something that my team looks at, but there are whole teams within the government that do look at that. I know that there's a whole piece of work around data centres and whether they're in, you know, whether we should get more in Australia or where they should be and how we should power them, etc. But yeah, you do have to think about your footprint and some of that. Some of that document I showed at the end, the Impact Navigator and the ESG document does cover some of those issues. But yeah, as an individual, every time you use ChatGPT, you know, you're using a lot of energy. So it is good to be mindful of those things.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a question. So we know 46% of people or something don't even check the veracity of the data.
Yeah.
We don't want to be those kinds of people. So what tips do you have that we could improve the quality of the output from, say, language-based models? So I think you mentioned before, you mentioned just asking it back a question. How many times do you have to ask the question back to the language model to get an accurate answer?
Look, I don't know the exact answer to that, but what I do is it's actually got a lot better in some of the models. I've noticed with ChatGPT now it does give you source data, as like it will give you links to where it found some of the data. So I often will click through to that source data that it gives me and double check that it hasn't taken something out of context, because that can happen too. It can give a paragraph and then it'll have a link to a source. And then I'll click the source, and then that source, you know, it might not be quite in the context that it's taken it. So it's just double checking. And I guess ultimately it's being comfortable with what you're providing, because you're getting information out of this large language model and you're obviously using it or providing it to someone for a purpose. So you have to be comfortable you understand it and that it makes sense to you. So, you know, you've got to read it, give it your own check, but also verify those sources. And I would also sometimes I go into Google and ask Google similar questions and verify it that way as well. But I think it's just about not just taking the first thing. Don't believe everything you read. You have to verify, you have to check.
Okay. Another question is perhaps, does the government vet the safety of any of these tools for data mining or other risks that might be involved, or is it really just open slather everything that's available here in Australia?
Well, Oh, I mean, I guess, things like Microsoft, ChatGPT, etc., is available to us. The government does not regulate or verify those. The government did ban for government use. I'm actually not sure if it was for private use as well, although, yeah, I think it might have been one of the new Chinese, which just for some reason temporarily forgotten the name of, Chinese models that was released, we may have heard was released a few months ago. There was a large language model that came out of China a few months ago that was banned because of data, because of potential data going back into the model. I know we can't use it in government. I'm pretty sure it might be difficult to use even outside of government. But no, look, we don't have regulation in place. So we are, I guess AI is evolving at such a fast pace that, it's very difficult for things like laws and regulation to keep up.
It looks like there's a few people on here that use Perplexity and they find that very useful and it provides sources and things.
Excellent. Yeah, it is. Good. Great. DeepSeek.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
we've also
Someone
had some very
that was the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and somebody's also said that they use AI every day, ChatGPT, Perplexity, you name it, and your presentation has left them in awe with such valuable, insightful education to live with clarity and impact. Absolutely brilliant. So that's nice.
Thank you so much. I'm really pleased you got something out of it. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to know. It's hard to know how much people already know and how much still people are learning. So no, I appreciate that.
Look, I'm sure there's people who have dialed in today who were hoping somebody would go on to ChatGPT and show them how to ask a question and how to, down at that granular level. But I think what your presentation has done is it showed that there's a lot of resources out there for if you're starting out, that perhaps you should actually start at those resources as well to try to get an understanding of what the AI is actually doing and therefore what questions that you're asking. Where they're getting the information and how it's driving the result?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, knowledge is power here as an individual. And AI is moving so quickly and it is going to transform the way we work. It already has, but it's going to do that even more and quickly. And so I think the best thing that you can do is actually how to work with AI and how to understand it. It will just to really, keep your skills up. And as we go into, the next sort of 5-10 years of the workforce, when we start to get some of, more agentic AI, which is autonomous agents, etc., you want to understand them. You want to know how to work with them, because there will be a whole lot of jobs of how people are working with AI, not necessarily AI taking over, but how we work with AI and how we govern and manage and how we expect AI to reflect our values. So I think that upskilling and building your knowledge is really crucial.
Yeah. Somebody has asked a question here in the chat that says, can you suggest some resources to manage the risk of AI being used within the business by people who are perhaps inexperienced? I think there was a risk document you mentioned, wasn't there?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I think the voluntary AI safety standard might be too detailed for that kind of question. Look, I think even those videos that I showed, they actually explain to people what can go wrong and how AI systems can fail and how, we need to think and understand what those risks might be. Like, for example, an AI system might harm by a recruitment algorithm, may discriminate against older people, for example, or younger people, and so you need to be aware that could happen. So I think it's about them understanding the risks, and the more knowledge you build around that and the more you understand that, the more you know about how to manage it. But I think in terms of if you've got people in your business, if you're talking about staff in your business, I think it's those open conversations, and it's also getting together a policy, even a simple policy of this is what's expected. You know, we don't expect that you would put private data into this model. Do not put our customer email addresses and names into the model. You know, like you have some basic things in place that that really help your staff to manage that. And also, I think, like I said before, it's really about upskilling them, letting them use the tools. Because I think, you know, well, in my personal opinion, the worst thing you could do is say you're not allowed to use it, and then people then have to use it secretly, which, you know, which is where you get these data breaches occurring.
So you just said, if I can just clarify, you just said you shouldn't upload customer emails and things to the database because, like, because it will basically mine that. Is that right? Is that where one of the risks is?
I think that if you have Copilot in your organisation, no, because it's closed. Like if you've got a licensed AI model that your organisation is using, there's that data is not, you're not losing that data. It's staying in Australia. But if you're just if you're copying and pasting your customer database into ChatGPT, well, I mean, I don't think anyone can promise you that data is safe. I mean, you know, us as government, we don't put any data like that into any of those models. We have a Copilot which is closed. So, you know, you have to be mindful of that. I mean, there is a box that you can tick in the settings of ChatGPT which says it won't use my import to train the model, but you know, once the data's in there, it's in there. So you need to be thinking about whether you're putting private information in there.
Fantastic. All right, I'm just going to, I think that's pretty much answered everyone's questions. So yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to answer the questions, providing all of those resources, which I think will very much be worth following up, everybody, just to go back and look at those, look at the training, look at the standards, look at those, yeah, maybe even do that TAFE course. That sounds like could be 5 hours well invested if you've got the time, because AI can save you time also in your role. It can be making some of your job a lot easier. So I guess it's worth having a look and learning how to use it. And we all appreciate that it's going to be a big part of our future. So we will wrap up there. Our next, thank you very much, Eloise. So thank you everyone for attending. Our next webinar is on the 10th of June, a Tuesday again. It's going to be hosted by Wine Australia, providing an update on the Australian wine campaign and how to best promote Australian wines in the market. So please go onto our website and book for that. And also for members, recordings of all past webinars are available on the website under the education session. You have to log in as a member to access those, but you've got free access to years worth of webinars. So it's one of the most important and valuable benefits of being a member. And of course, if you've got any suggestions for future topics, if you would like to delve more into artificial intelligence and you want more depth, please let us know. We can try to find, you know, the next speaker in a future webinar that might have a different angle on it. But yeah, we respond to what you want to know about. So, and thank you very much for coming and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Eloise. Bye-bye.